it's Shelby here. Welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today? Today we're going to be doing my end of July reading wrap up. So these are going to be all the books that I read in the latter half of July, after I'm counting like July 16th or so through July 31st, which was yesterday when I'm filming this. And I've got a ton of books to get through. And I'm hoping I don't spend too much time on all of them because most of the books are from like the Planet Barbarians series or the spin-off series Ice Home. So like I said, I'm hoping I don't spend too much time on it. So I ended up reading a total of 34 books in the month of July, which is like crazy to me. I think that's the most I've ever read in a month. It also just feels weird that I was able to read that much because I feel like I've been having kind of like a reading slump lately. I think the only reason I was able to read so many is because most of these, like 90% of these books I listen to on audiobook. I just have not been wanting to read like a physical book, like a physical hardback paperback book or ebooks. I've been trying to find some, but like I'm just like not into it. I've been wanting to like watch stuff more. So the only reason I was able to listen to so many on audiobook is because sometimes I can listen to audiobooks like while I'm at work. I listen to them while I'm like driving, or sometimes I'll like put them on just because I haven't really felt like doing too much. Like I've been like playing games on my phone and whatnot instead of reading. So I'm like, well, I should be a little bit productive, I guess, while I'm playing like video games or games on my phone, excuse me. And so I've been listening to like audiobooks or whatnot, but otherwise like physical books, just for whatever reason this month, I just have not been in the mood for reading them. Like I said, I can't find any that interest me. If I start reading them, I just like stop them, and I don't know what it is. So like I said, most of these are from Ruby Dixon's like Ice Planet, whatever type series. And I think the only reason I was able to read so many of them because they're just really easy to get through, especially on audiobook form. They're not super complicated for the most part, and they're fun. So that's how I got through so many. So anyway, we're just gonna dive right in, and get started talking about all of these books, and hopefully we're not here all day. So the first one that I read in the latter half of July is going to be Barbarians Mate, which is the 7th book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is about Josie and Hayden, I think. Josie, of the original group of women who were like crashed onto this ice planet, she is the last woman to resonate to somebody, and I think the reason that she did was because she had an IUD, so it just happens to like fall out, which I don't know if that's actually how that would happen, but whatever. Suspension of disbelief and all that. So it falls out, and she immediately resonates to this guy that she absolutely can't stand. She hates him. So it's kind of a little bit of like a hate to love, enemies to lovers kind of thing. And she kind of finds out like why Hayden is so like and like mean and gruff and whatnot and doesn't like her. And it's not actually that he doesn't like her, but whatever. I did enjoy this one. I gave it 3.5 stars because I did kind of like Josie as a character. There's certain points where she's like, you know what, I'm gonna do my own thing, and she like goes out like exploring, which of course she has no idea what she's doing, so Hayden like kind of follows behind her to make sure that she's like okay. But there's just certain, like, she's like, I'm not just gonna like be with this guy just because we resonated. Like, that's not okay because I don't like him. He's like mean. And then they get to know each other and it's really cute, so I liked it. Oh, then I read The Secret, which is the second book in the Evolution of Sin trilogy by Gianna Darling. I gave this one 3 stars. This just kind of continues the story, which if you know didn't watch my other wrap up, I talked about the first book. I read that, and it's basically about these 2 characters all who go on vacation. They decide to have an affair. So second book is them. Mostly it starts off with her just going to New York where her family is, and she finds out that the guy that she had an affair with in Mexico is actually her sister's longtime boyfriend. And so this book is just them keeping that secret and seeing how well that goes. Moving on. So then the next one that I read is going to be Barbarians Touch, which is the 8th book in the Ice Planet Barbarians series. I gave this 4 stars. This might actually be my favorite one from the series, because one of the prior books, like all the women were taken by these bad aliens and they were like crashed, like dropped off, whatever, on this ice planet. Well, then one of the other books, the aliens are like trying to like come back to take them, and they get the humans kind of like sabotage it, and that ship like crashes and all those aliens die. Well, on that second crash ship, there was actually 2 women in like these like pods, like they've been asleep, they don't know what's going on, and they decide to wake those 2 women up. And so this is one of the women. The 2 women that were in the pods are actually sisters. This is the younger sister. I think Lila's her name. But Lila is deaf. Now in like on Earth, she had gotten like these, I'm assuming like cochlear kind of implants so that she could hear. But when the aliens took them, they took all that stuff out. And so now she can't hear anything anymore, like she did. So she's really scared because she has even worse time of trying to communicate with these aliens, and none of them know sign language. So she only has her sister to kind of help her. Well, when they are like being woken up, there's, you know, the women, like the prior like human women, and some of the aliens, and they're still, a lot of them are still single and still really wanting to resonate. So there's this one guy who decides he's going to kidnap Lila and try to force resonance, not in the kind of like a rapey kind of sense. He's just hoping that if he takes her away from everybody else, it's just the 2 of them, she will start to rely on him and they'll start to form a relationship, and then that'll get like resonance kind of going. Well, that kind of backfires on him because Lila is totally terrified of him, and he can't understand why she doesn't, like why she's so scared of him and why she can't communicate with him. He just doesn't get it. Well, then there's this other hunter, barbarian dude or whatever, Rokian, I think. All of the guys' names are like very similar, so I'm probably gonna get some of them mixed up. He goes out and rescues her from that other hunter, and because she doesn't really want to be with him, and he actually kind of understands, like he's one of the only aliens that picks up right away that she's a little bit different, that she can't hear anything. So he tries to go out of his way to try to learn like sign language and try to communicate with her the best way like possible for her. This one was super cute. Like I said, these 2 might be like my favorite couple of the series. I don't know, like they're pretty high up there. I thought this was so cute. FYI, if you are reading the Ice Planet Barbarian series, I know some people don't really like this one and a lot of the later ones because they're not as steamy as some of the earlier ones, which might be the case with this one. But like the romance was so sweet. Like the sweetness of it is like super high, and that's part of why I loved it. So just if you're going into it just for the steam, like it does kind of like wane a little bit the farther you go on, just so you know. Anyway, so then the next one is going to be Barbarians Taming, which is the next one in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I give this 3 stars. Most of these are going to be like 3 stars. They're like, eh, you know, they're pretty good. So this one is actually about the other woman, the sister of Lila. I don't remember, Maddie is her name. And while Lila has been like out wherever and Rokin's trying to like rescue her or whatnot, she has been causing so much chaos and drama in the camp because she, like, nobody likes her because, which I can understand, because she's throwing such a fuss about her sister being missing and she feels like nobody's doing anything. So she hasn't made any friends with anybody in the camp. And so because of that, none of them really like her either. So then when her sister comes back, she's like thriving, she's doing great, doesn't need her sister anymore because she's got this mate who can help her and who's trying to get all the rest of the people in the tribe to learn sign language so that everybody can communicate with her. And so Maddie just kind of feels like she's been kind of ostracized and that she's not really needed anymore and nobody really cares about her. So she starts to form a connection to the guy that actually kidnapped her sister, the original kidnapper or whatever, because, you know, him doing that is a big no-no. So the chief of the tribe like kicked him out and was like, you can't be in the tribe for so long because this is not okay. And so she kind of feels like he's also been kind of ostracized. So he's the only one that she kind of feels a little bit of connection to. So she's like, I'm just gonna let's just be pleasure mates, which is like a thing. If you don't like resonate, you can just pick somebody to like have sex with, you know, whatever, casual kind of stuff. And she's like, yeah, let's like, whatever, we're not going anywhere, let's have some fun. And they become pleasure mates, and then in doing so they become mates, and it's their story. So then I read Barbarians Heart, which is the 10th one in Ice Planet Barbarian series. I think I gave this 3 again. This is about this is kind of like a second chance romance. This is about a couple that has already like resonated. I think they were one of the first couples to like resonate when the group of women got rescued. But at the end of the prior book, there is a big, kind of like an earthquake, and there's a big like cave-in in like the cave that they call their home. And during that, the guy in this one ends up getting a head injury and he has amnesia, and he ends up losing all of his memories of his mate and their child. He doesn't remember any of the human women coming. He doesn't remember anything. So it's also kind of like an amnesia kind of story if you're into that one. This one was really cute. It was hard to read at some times because they're just like the struggle between them, because it was so hard for the heroine to be around him and he just didn't have any kind of recognition like in his eyes of when he like looked at her, which was like heartbreaking for her, and it was really hard for her to be around him. But then at the same time it was also kind of frustrating because it was like, you need to be around him to maybe like jog some of his memory, or you know, like he still wants to try to like be around you and like relearn everything. So I don't know, it was really cute though, and I did enjoy it. The next one is Barbarians Hope, which I gave this one like 2.5 stars. I didn't really care for this one. This is also like a second chance romance, and this doesn't take place between a like alien and a human female. This is about 2 aliens. One of the only women that was in the tribe, she had previously resonated to this guy, and they had a baby, but unfortunately their baby ended up passing away shortly after birth. It was just very sickly when she was born, so there are trigger warnings for that. So this girl, she throughout this like book, she's just very depressed. She wants to keep to herself most of the time. She doesn't like being around other people. It's just really hard for her, but then she's also pushed away her mate. So this is about them kind of like rekindling their romance and helping both of them like work through their grief. So this one is a little bit more like hard hitting, but at the same time I gave this 2.5 stars just because the female main character is kind of not a nice person and she really annoyed me. Like it sucks. I can understand to a certain point like acting the way she did, but at the same time I just couldn't. I just didn't like her, so that's why I gave this 2.5 stars. But anyway, then I read Barbarians Choice, which is another 3-star for me. This one is about one of the other female aliens in the tribe, Farley, and we've seen her in prior books where she's been more like a kid, so like years are passing, and so now she's like an adult, and a lot of the other men in the tribe have interest in her, but she has no interest in them because she's like kind of grew up with all of them and just sees them more as like her brothers. Well, then another spaceship ends up, I think they're like merchants. They like ship like cargo or something. Something happens with their ship and they have to like land on the planet to try to like make repairs or something. And so one of the aliens, Murdoch, ends up like walking outside and trying to make repairs, and Farley happens to be there, and she's just like, whoa, who is this hunkin' man? And then he sees her and he's like, who is this like crazy almost naked chick or whatnot? It kind of gave me, I've been watching a lot of Disney movies today. It kind of gave me like Pocahontas vibes, like when John Smith and Pocahontas like first meet and they're just kind of like, you look so strange and whatever, but it's kind of those vibes. And so then like at one point Farley has to kind of make a choice because the ship isn't planning on staying on the planet and this guy is gonna leave, and Farley's like, am I just gonna let him leave and never see my mate ever again, or do I go with them and potentially never see any of my family ever again? So there is that aspect to it, but overall this was fine. It was not. Oh, then next is going to be Barbarians Redemption, which is the next book in the Planet Barbarians series. I gave this 3 stars. I've been kind of back and forth all over the place with this one because this one is about Beck, who in one of the prior books, he was a pleasure mate with Claire, I think, one of these females, and he was kind of verbally abusive to her and was just not a good person to her, and he's kind of seen as like this like burly, gruff, kind of mean guy. Well, all of the females now have resonated and there are no more females left, and he's kind of upset about this because he wants to mate. He, you know, wants to have a family. So he decides that ends up doing something like giving money somehow, I don't remember the exact details, to the prior books, their merchant ship, and ask them to find human women slaves to bring back to the planet. So in a sense, he purchases slaves to be brought to the planet. So that's what happens in this one. And of course, he doesn't realize why that's bad. So we get new females. There are 5 women that end up being purchased and are taken to this planet, and they're like, hey, but it's okay because we're nice and you get to live here and make families and it's so awesome. So they kind of have to like teach him that, you know, that's not okay and whatnot. So he actually ends up having feelings for and resonating to one of the slave women and she has been a slave for like 10 years. She was taken when she was like a child. So there is trigger warnings for like past trauma and past abuse. I don't remember if she was ever like raped. I don't think that ever happened, but there is still a lot of abuse that she went through, and she has a lot of trauma to work through. And I don't remember how they get to the point, but at some point Beck is like the only one that she feels comfortable with, and she feels like she can trust him. So he kind of like breaks down a lot of her walls that she has and helps her work through some of those traumas that she has and like fears and phobias. And they end up having a relationship. So like I said, I go back and forth on this one because I was like, Beck, what he did was like terrible. He's a terrible person, but at the same time he did have a lot of like character growth in this, which I can appreciate, and I like that he kind of helped her too. So I don't know, I'm sticking at 3 stars for now. I may change my mind later, who knows. And then we go to Barbarians Lady, which is the next one, and a lot of the rest of the books in the Ice Planet Barbarian series are kind of meh. I don't really remember too much of the plot of them. So this one, I just remember that it's one of the human slaves that was like captured or bought, whatever, and she's like super duper tall. And so there's this one guy who's kind of seen as like the funny guy, and he makes all these like jokes about her being tall, and she doesn't find them very funny. She kind of finds them insulting, so she doesn't really like him, but he's not meaning to be insulting. He's meaning it to be like praise, because he's like, wow, I've never seen a woman so tall. This is so cool kind of thing, but it doesn't really come off that way. That's the biggest thing I remember about this. I gave this like 2.5 stars, mostly because I don't remember a ton of the plot, so yeah. And then there's Barbarians Rescue, which I gave 3 stars for this one. This is again about one of the other human slave women. Her name is Summer, and she's always seen as being somebody that just talks a lot, like she's constantly talking. And her and this guy, one of the alien guys, kind of like never says a word, like he's so quiet, end up going to this like cave. They end up going to this cave that's almost kind of like a greenhouse, and it's got all this like tropical like kind of fruit and stuff in it. So they go there to like pick stuff, but while they're there, the ship that brought them ends up coming back, and there's actually slavers now on the ship. They tracked the people that were originally like owned the ship and ended up like killing them and retracing them to where they took the slaves. And they decide they're gonna take the slaves back, and then when they find other people there, they're like, we're gonna take all of these other people as slaves too. So this is about them too. They're the only ones that have seen this happen. And so this is basically them on like a rescue mission to save everybody. Yeah, so and they end up forming a romance in the meantime. Oh, then the next one is Barbarians Tease. I again gave this 3 stars. This is about one of the other slave human women. So this takes place, part of it anyway, when the slavers come from like the prior book where the 2 on the outside are like trying to rescue them. So this is like showing what happened on the inside of the ship. And so it's about Brooke. So she is trying to do what she can to try to save everybody. On the inside is she can't really do too much, but she's trying to like talk about how they're like mated and they've got like kids to try to keep like the families together. And then doing so, the people like in the group that they capture, her and one of the other aliens are the only 2 that aren't mated. So these aliens are like, hey, we're gonna throw you 2 in a cell, give you some drugs, and have you procreate and try to get us an alien baby, and that's another person like thing that we can make money off of. So this kind of has sort of like a one night stand trope, kind of, because they are drugged when they have this interaction, and then they like don't talk about it afterwards, and she's like really annoyed by that, and they kind of clash heads, but then they all like work it all out in the end, and it's their kind of romance, blah blah blah. But okay, so this, I think after that book is where it kind of splits off a little bit. So while those slaver aliens came and they, you know, killed all those slaver aliens and it's fine, but they did have other slaves on the ship, like a bunch of them, I think like 20 or so, and not all of them were women either. So this is kind of where it like splits off. You, like, if you're reading this, you can keep reading the Ice Planet Barbarian series, or you can go to the spin-off series called Ice Home, which is about those new slave people that were on that ship. They end up waking all of them up, and it's kind of like about them, kind of like a new generation, if you will. So I did end up going on to the Ice Home, but I decided to just go ahead and finish off Ice Planet Barbarians first. I don't think it's absolutely necessary for you, like if you're wanting to read Ice Planet Barbarians, to finish off the series. I think if you stop at like 16, you'd probably be fine, because all of the rest of the books in the series are about, they just have like flashbacks, and they're about couples that Ruby Dixon hadn't talked about before. Like they were more like side characters, and she talked about, oh yeah, and they resonated and they've got a family and blah blah blah, but you never actually got to like have a book for them and see it happen. So the rest of the series is just basically that. It's about all those other couples that were side characters in prior books, and here's their story, and it's told like you get the present day, and they're just kind of like reminiscing on what happened. So if you, I mean, like I said, I don't think it's really necessary unless there is somebody that you're really interested in learning more about, then maybe pick up their like individual book, but otherwise the rest of it just kind of anyway, so I'm gonna do those first because like I said, I did decide to continue on the series, and then we'll go on to Ice Home. So the next one is going to be Barbarians Beloved. So this is number 17. I gave this 3 stars. This is about Ariana and Zolea. And again, like I said, it's pretty much the same format for all of these. I think Ariana is pregnant and gonna be giving birth maybe, and Zolea is trying to get back home because he's currently at the Ice Home kind of location, helping them to get their like camp kind of started. So their flashback is Ariana was one of the women that was always like crying, and nobody really liked her because she's constantly crying, but Zolea like wanted to like help her because he like had a connection to her, but nobody really knows why she's crying, and she's crying because she has really bad anxiety, and that's just how a lot of her like emotions like just let out in the form of crying. Like it's not like she's trying to, it's just her trying to cope, I guess, with that anxiety. So this does have like mental, what am I trying to say? Kind of like a mental disability, mental whatever kind of representation to it, because like I said, she does have anxiety, and I think she does get panic attacks too if her anxiety gets too high. So Zolea like kind of helps her calm down and work through all of that. So that's their story. Then the number 18, Barbarians Seduction. This is going to be about Marlene and Zenek. I gave this 2.5 stars. I remember enjoying it while I read it, but the only thing I remember about this one is that Marlene was French, and that's basically, oh, and then that she keeps seeing like signs, like she sees signs from her mother everywhere. So when she sees all those signs, she knows everything is well. But then in this something, she feels like something bad is going to happen because she can't find any signs from her mother or something. I don't know. That's like all I remember from that one. So that's kind of why I gave it 2.5 stars, because I don't remember too much. Barbarians Treasure, I gave 3 stars, which I probably am gonna bump down to 2.5 stars because it's about Megan and Casual, and I don't really remember too much that happened because I kind of get them and one of the other, the next one, number 20, I kind of get the two like the couples from both of those books kind of mixed up. So the next one is going to be Barbarian's Bride, which is the last book currently. I don't know if Ruby Dixon has any plans to continue on with Ice Planet Barbarians like main series, but currently this is the last book in the series, and this one is about Nora and Dagesh. That one I do remember a little bit more. I gave it 3 stars. I remember this one is about this couple that they resonated like instantly, like right away, and they're always seen as having like the best like sex life, and they just like everything goes so well, but behind like closed doors, this is their kind of telling their story of that it didn't quite happen that way. Mostly what I remember from this is that Nora likes more like rougher sex. She likes being, I think she likes being like choked and like spanked, and like light elements of like BDSM, which Dagesh is totally turned off of because he's like, that's hurting you and that's not okay. My whole like reason for being and the whole point of me being your mate is to pleasure you and worship you and, you know, dote on you. I can't do anything to harm you. So it's them kind of working through that, and her kind of teaching him a little bit about like BDSM sort of aspects, and that it is pleasurable for her and that he's not actually like hurting her. So this is like BDSM light, very, very light, but it was cute and I did enjoy it. But yeah, so that's it for Ice Planet Barbarians. That's a very long series, but it helps if you read an audiobook. So that's how I did it. Now we're moving on to Ice Home, which is the current, I haven't finished it. I'm currently still on it. But the first one is going to be Lauren's Barbarian. So like I said, this takes place, is about all the new like women, and I think there's like 4 men that they find that were slaves. So Lauren ends up, they are trying to take apart different things that were in the alien ship, and then they're going to send it out to sea and destroy it so that no other like slavers people can find their planet and try to take people again. So in doing that, Lauren and another girl, which I think her book is like later down the line, but Lauren and this other girl are actually like get stuck on board the ship when they send it out to destroy it, and they get washed up on this ashore on this like island on the ice planet, but this island is actually like warm and like tropical, and there's these other aliens that are on this planet or on this island, and they actually look a little bit different than the regular like aliens from the Ice Planet Barbarian series. There's like these different tribes. There are some that look pretty close to the regular aliens from the Ice Planet Barbarian series, except their horns are longer and taller. Then there are this tribe that have 4 arms, and then there's another tribe that has more hair than the other ones. So anyway, so Lauren washes up on the shore, and one of the forearm guys ends up taking her because his tribe is down to like 3 or 4 people, because this island is actually a volcano and it had erupted previously and killed off most of the people from all of the tribes. So his tribe, I don't think, has any women in it. So he takes her, and I think they like pretty quickly end up resonating, but then the volcano is still active, so Lauren is trying to get all of them off of the island and back to the ice home like area. And so that's kind of what happens in this book. I gave it this 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. It kind of gave me a little bit of like nostalgic kind of vibes back to the original like first book of the Ice Planet Barbarians series, where they have no way of like communicating to each other, so it's them just trying to like learn each other and you know, start feeling comfortable with each other. And it just, I don't know, so that's kind of why I gave it like the 1/2 star, because I enjoyed that. Then the next one, we have Veronica's Dragon, which is the second one, Ice Home. I gave this 3 stars, which I might bump up to 3.5 stars. This is about Veronica, who's one of the slave women, or the like woken up women, whatever. And this guy Ashtar, who is a Draconi, is his like alien race, and he has been in slavery for a long time. And he was a slave to be like a warrior, almost kind of like a gladiator, it sounded like. And he instantly has a connection to Veronica and instantly likes her and wants to be her mate. And it's just, I don't know, it gave me, I just really enjoyed this one because it reminds me of Ruby Dixon's Dragon series, which I have read a few books in that series and I really like that one. So, which I'm sure she wrote after this, but whatever. So it just reminded me of that series and I really liked it. So I think that's kind of why I really like this one. But then also Veronica, once she gets her Kui, ends up becoming like a healer, which is super cool. So I like this one. Then the next one we have Willys Beast. I give this 2.5 stars because this is about Willa, and she forms a connection to one of the other guys. And his name is like Grim, something like that. And he is just very beast-like. He doesn't look like any of the other aliens. He's big, he's kind of hairy, he's scary looking, and they always have him like kind of roped up to protect everyone from him. And Willa just thinks that's terrible, and she's like, why is nobody trying to get to know him? If they would just like ask him how he's doing, like just talk to him, they would understand that he's not a bad guy, blah blah blah. And so she like ends up taking him, like she unbinds him and she takes him off to this cave, and she's like, we don't need anybody, we're just gonna do it on our own. And they end up resonating. He ends up getting like injured, and Veronica comes and like heals him, but she kind of finds out that he's kind of like a test tube baby, and he's just like a mishmash of all kinds of different alien creatures. So with that, he has a lot of like health problems that she kind of tries to fix, but then also they have problems with like resonating. It like takes so much longer than it should because of some of his like genetic problems or something. So I give this 2.5 stars just because Willa I found very annoying. I liked that she was one of those characters that kind of like roots for the underdog kind of thing and wanted to get to know Grim because she's like, he's just misunderstood kind of thing. But at the same time, I feel like she's being very selfish and not really thinking about everybody else in the camp. So the reason why they had to tie him up is because when they tried to talk to him, he immediately like lashed out. And one of the women who's kind of like in charge, she's actually from the original Ice Planet Barbarians group, is kind of in charge of this whole thing, and she was near him, and she's actually pregnant. So they're like, oh no, that's not okay. Like, we like seriously like protect our women, especially our pregnant women. So like, I understand why they did that and where they were coming from. So, but she's very much like, they're terrible people for doing this. I can't trust any of them. They're awful. We should never be with them ever again, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just kind of like, girl, like, I don't know. She just annoyed me. So that's why this one got 2.5 stars. And then we have Angies Gladiator, which I gave 3 stars. This one was very interesting because Angie, when she wakes up out of the pod, she is like uber pregnant. And she has no memory of how she got pregnant. She remembers like being on Earth, you know, going to sleep. And then all of a sudden she's on this alien planet and she's like super pregnant. So it's a lot of her kind of dealing with that and trying to work through, like, she's gonna have this baby and she has no idea if it's gonna look human, if it's gonna look alien. How alien is it going to look? Is it gonna look somewhat humanoid, or is it just gonna look completely bizarre? So that's her. And then this is about one of the other men. So him and his twin brother, they are actually clones, and they are like bred to be slaves. Like, his whole race is only clones, and their whole purpose, they're like cloned and bred solely for being slaves. So he has an interest in Angie, and he wants to like protect her, but then he also starts to have feelings for her. So I thought this was really cute, and I like this one, and it's their story. Oh, and then I read Ice Planet Barbarians, the first book in the Ice Planet Barbarians series, which I gave 3 stars, and this was a reread for me. I read this like 2 or 3 years ago, and just because I've been reading the rest of the books in the series, I just wanted a little bit of like nostalgia, and I really wanted to read the original book and like bring it back home. And this is about Georgie and Vectel and how this whole series and the spin-off series, how it all started, and I loved it. And you should read it because it's really good. Then I read Hannah's Hero, which is going to be the next one in the Ice Home series. I gave this 2.5 stars, mostly because I just did not like the main character. Hannah is somebody that she is really bitchy, and nothing is good enough. And she just keeps going on and on. Like, she's resonated to this guy, but she pushes him away and doesn't want to be with him because she's adamant that it's not gonna come, you know, nothing's gonna come of it, because she is getting off this planet and she's not gonna be there anymore. And I just like wanted to shake her and like realize, like let her know, like, how are you getting on this planet? There's no spaceship. You would have no idea how to, you know, run a spaceship or whatnot. Like, how are you getting on? Like, I just didn't make any sense to me. And then I just didn't like her like whole character, like bitchiness, whatever. I just didn't like her. So that's why this book had lower stars, because I didn't care for her. But then the next one, the 7th book in the Ice Home series, Debbie's Distraction, I gave 4 stars. So far, I think this one might be my favorite couple of the Ice Home series. I think I'm only maybe like halfway through the Ice Home series, so I still have a lot to go, but so far I'm pretty sure this is my favorite couple. So this is about Debbie, who I think has like Indian background, and she is like a scientist. So she is fascinated by this planet. She's like always trying to find like dead animals to try to study, just because she just wants to learn everything she can about this planet. And part of why she's also doing that is because it kind of distracts her from missing her family. So then we have Nadek, who is one of the people from the like island, one of the tribes, and in like an attack or something, he lost his leg and so he can't walk. So he sees Debbie and realizes that she's pretty smart. He decides to go to her and ask her to help him walk again. He basically asked her to help him make a prosthesis, even though he doesn't know what that is or that word, but she's just like, heck yeah, I can do that. Let's like figure this out. And like totally into like helping him out. And I just love this. So this does have like disability rep because he doesn't have a leg. So this is him kind of working through his problems and realizing that he is totally capable even without his leg, but then even more so once he does get a prosthesis. And it's just really cool to see, and he thinks she is super cool, even though everybody else thinks she's kind of annoying because she's really nerdy and always like asking all these questions and just nobody can really like relate to her, but he thinks like she's like super cool. And I don't know, I love them. I thought it was really cute. Okay, I only have 2 books left to talk about. The next one I read was The Consequence, which is the last book in the Evolution of Sin trilogy by Gianna Darling. I give this 2 stars. This is about, so everybody finds out about their affair, and basically, as the name says, this is just the consequences of that. I give this 2 stars. I was really hoping that I would like this more because I have read the Enslaved Duet, I think is what it's called, which is about one of the other sisters, and you can kind of see what happens to them from this story, and that they do end up together and, you know, happily ever after kind of thing, sort of. And so I was like really rooting for them, but at the same time, I couldn't stand them in this book. I was just so over them and their entire situation. And at one point, like I hated him because he got her pregnant by, this kind of spoilery, so if you're, you know, skip ahead or whatnot, but anyway, he gets her pregnant because he hides her birth control and like takes it away. And I just hate that. That is not okay. Like, you cannot, like, she has to be consenting for that. I hated that. And I just didn't like them. They're 2 characters, and I was just over it. I just wanted this book to be done because I just didn't care anymore. So I was hoping to finish reading this, since I have read the Enslaved Duet, so that I could read Gianna Darling's new series, which also kind of takes place in this world. It is about the sister who was cheated on in this series. So I was kind of interested to see, you know, I wanted to read her story, but I don't know if I will right now because I didn't like her in this book either. Like, it sucks. Like, that's so not cool that she got cheated on, but she was absolutely terrible to her sister and was totally putting all the blame for everything on her sister, when I was like, okay, but he was involved too, so you're not gonna blame him like whatsoever. It's all her, and that she's like a whore and all this terrible, and I couldn't stand it. I was like, she's your sister. Like, I get that she did a bad thing, but I just didn't understand that. So I don't know if I might read her story at some point, maybe, but right now I don't think that's gonna happen because I just don't care. I don't like her, and I don't really care about her or her story, so that's how it is. I think this world of Gianna Darling's, it's just not for me. I just don't really care for it. I like her other series, the like Fallen Men series. I've only read like 2 books in it, but both of those books I loved. They're so good. So I think that series and that world might be more for me. This one, it's just, don't really like it. Anyway, I've talked enough about that one. So the last one that I read in the month of July is going to be Nadine's Champion. And I gave this 3 stars. This is an Ice Home series. This is again about one of the women. And she actually likes to go hunting and goes out with like some of her friends to like try to hunt and be like productive in like the little like group, I guess. And this is about the other twin that I mentioned before. This is the other twin, and he is kind of annoying. He's very competitive and he wants to turn everything into competition and be like, oh, I can do this way better than you can, which Nadine finds super annoying, but he likes her and is very interested in her, so she kind of starts to warm up to him, and this is about their romance, and it was fine. Like I said, it's a 3-star book. But anyway, look for it when I do my August wrap up. I am currently on the next book in the Ice Home series, and I plan on trying to finish that series and then maybe moving on to, I don't know what she wrote after Ice Home. Maybe like, I think she's got like the Corsairs, maybe, I think that's what it's called, series. So I might see if about moving on to that, or maybe finishing up because like I said, I read her like Dragon series, and I've read like the first like three books in that, maybe 3 or 4 books, so maybe I might finish that series off, which that one I think she is currently still writing. I know she's actually still writing Ice Home because I've seen on like Goodreads that like the next one is like gonna be coming out sometime. So these are still like ongoing series, but I'm at least gonna try to read and finish what's already published. But anyway, enough rambling. That is all the books that I finished off in the latter half of July, which was a lot, so many books. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, and make sure you leave a comment down below about, you know, some of the books that you read. Did you read any of the same books that I did? Have you read, if you didn't read them in this month, have you read any of these books before? And let me know some of like your opinions on them. I'd be really interested to know that. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to say it again. If you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. And if you're interested in seeing more videos from me, more like wrap-ups and other types of like bookish, especially romance, bookish content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys.